The stars looked peaceful through the main window of the Unity. Commander Jack Morrison stood on the bridge watching the endless darkness of space. His crew had been exploring this sector for 3 weeks now. Everything had been quiet. Too quiet, perhaps. Jack was a tall man with gray hair at his temples. He had been in space for 15 years, and he knew when something felt wrong. Today, that feeling sat heavy in his stomach. "Commander, I'm picking up something on long-range sensors," Lucy Hayes called from the pilot station. She was young, only 26, but she was the best pilot Jack had ever worked with. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls. "What kind of something?" Jack asked, moving closer to her station. "Big, really big. It's a ship, but like nothing in our database." Lucy's voice carried a hint of worry. Danny Fisher, the security chief, stood up from his station. He was a former Marine, broad-shouldered and always ready for trouble. "Should I raise shields?" Jack thought for a moment. Raising shields could be seen as hostile, but not raising them could be suicide. "Do it, but keep weapons offline. Let's not start a fight if we don't have to." The massive ship appeared on their screens moments later. It was dark red, almost the color of blood, with sharp edges and weapon ports everywhere. The ship was at least 5 times larger than the Unity. "They're hailing us," Karen White said from the science station. She pushed her glasses up her nose, a nervous habit. "Audio only." "Put them through," Jack ordered. A deep, growling voice filled the bridge. "Human vessel, this is War Leader Thraxon of the Cravathi Empire. You have entered our territory. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will be met with destruction." The crew looked at Jack. He could see the fear in their eyes. Everyone had heard stories about the Cravathi. They were warriors, conquerors. They had never lost a battle. Species across the galaxy paid them tribute just to be left alone. Jack took a deep breath. "This is Commander Jack Morrison of the Earth vessel Unity. We are on a peaceful exploration mission. We meant no disrespect to your territory. We will leave immediately." There was a long pause. Then Thraxon spoke again. "I have heard of humans. You defeated the Zelnar raiders in the Outer Rim. They were strong warriors, yet you crushed them in 3 months." "We defended ourselves," Jack replied carefully. "Defended." Thraxon seemed to taste the word. "The Zelnar attacked 15 of your colonies. You did not just defend. You hunted them down. You destroyed every one of their bases. You left no survivors." Jack said nothing. It was true. The Zelnar had made the mistake of thinking humans were soft. They learned otherwise. "I propose a challenge," Thraxon continued. "Send your best warrior to face one of mine in single combat. If your champion wins, you go free. If mine wins, you surrender your ship. This is more honor than most species receive from the Cravathi." Danny stepped forward. "I'll do it, Commander." Jack wanted to refuse. This was insane. But what choice did they have? If they ran, the Cravathi ship would destroy them. If they fought, same result. At least this way they had a chance. "Agreed," Jack said into the comm. "Where do we fight?" "Your cargo bay." "I want to see your ship." "I will come with my champion. We will come unarmed except for the weapons used in the fight. You have my word as war leader." 20 minutes later, the cargo bay was cleared. The crew gathered on the upper walkway to watch. Jack stood near the main door, waiting. Peter Grant, the medical officer, had his equipment ready. He was older, in his 50s, with steady hands and a calm demeanor. Jack hoped they wouldn't need him. The airlock opened. Thraxon entered first. He was massive, over 7 feet tall, with dark red scales and yellow eyes. He wore armor decorated with symbols that Jack guessed were battle honors. Behind him came an even larger Cravathi warrior, carrying a curved blade that glowed with energy. Danny stood in the center of the cargo bay. He had chosen a combat knife and a steel rod. Simple weapons. He wore no armor, just his standard uniform. The Cravathi warrior, who Thraxon introduced as Vorg, looked at Danny and laughed. It was a deep rumbling sound. "This is your champion?" "He is small. This will be quick," Danny said nothing. He just watched, his body relaxed but ready. Thraxon raised his hand. "Begin!" Vorg rushed forward with surprising speed for his size. His blade swung in a wide arc meant to cut Danny in half, but Danny wasn't there. He had rolled to the side, coming up near Vorg's legs. The steel rod cracked against Vorg's knee. The Cravathi warrior roared but didn't fall. He spun faster this time, the blade humming through the air. Danny blocked with the rod. Sparks flew. The impact should have knocked the rod from his hands, but Danny held firm. He stepped inside Vorg's reach, too close for the blade to be effective. The knife flashed. Once, twice, 3 times. Danny targeted weak points in Vorg's armor, places where the scales were thinner. The Cravathi warrior tried to grab him, but Danny was too fast. He moved like water, never where Vorg expected. Blood began to drip from multiple wounds. Vorg was slowing down. Danny showed no mercy. He swept Vorg's injured leg and the massive warrior fell. Before Vorg could rise, Danny had the knife at his throat. The cargo bay was silent. Everyone stared. Danny looked at Thraxon. Does he yield? Thraxon's face was unreadable. Then slowly he smiled. It was a terrifying expression showing sharp teeth. He yields. You fight with cunning, not just strength. You fight to win, not for glory. This is the way of true warriors. Danny stepped back, letting Vorg rise. The Cravathi warrior looked ashamed but nodded with respect at Danny before limping back to Thraxon's side. You are free to go, humans, Thraxon said. But know this. The galaxy fears what it does not understand. You are like us in many ways. We are both hunters. We are both survivors. Perhaps we will meet again under better circumstances. With that, Thraxon and Vorg left. The Cravathi ship moved away, disappearing into the darkness. Jack let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Lucy was already plotting a course back to human space. Karen was recording everything that happened. Peter was checking Danny for injuries. But Jack couldn't shake Thraxon's words. The galaxy fears what it does not understand. What did that mean? And why did it sound like a warning? Get us home, Jack ordered. Fleet Command needs to know about this. All of it. As the Unity jumped into faster-than-light travel, Jack watched the stars blur past. Something had changed today. He could feel it. The encounter with the Cravathi was just the beginning of something much larger. Something that would change everything for humanity and perhaps for the entire galaxy. He just hoped they were ready for what came next. Ambassador Helen Price had never liked the Galactic Council building. It was too big, too cold, and designed for species much different from humans. The ceilings were 40 feet high. The chairs were uncomfortable. Even the air smelled strange, filtered through systems meant for a dozen different atmospheres. She walked through the long corridor, her shoes clicking on the crystal floor. 2 council guards, tall insect-like beings called Vrex, followed her at a distance. They weren't there to protect her. They were there to watch her. The message had come 3 days ago. The council requested her immediate presence on Centris Prime. Not invited, requested. There was a difference, and Helen knew it. The chamber doors opened automatically. Inside, the council members sat in a semicircle on raised platforms. There were 12 species represented today. Chancellor Vorn, a trill with blue skin and 4 arms, sat in the center. His face showed no emotion. Ambassador Price, Vorn said, his voice echoing in the large room. Thank you for coming. I serve at the council's pleasure, Helen replied, using the formal words. She had learned long ago that politics required careful language. We have received troubling reports, Vorn continued. Your vessel, the Unity, encountered a Cravathi warship in the Kepler sector. Is this correct? It is, Helen confirmed. Commander Morrison filed a complete report. I sent it to the council 2 days ago. We have read it. This came from Zara, a Nexian who served as the council's intelligence officer. She was smaller than most species, barely 4 feet tall, but her 3 eyes missed nothing. What the report says is concerning. Very concerning, Helen waited. She had been an ambassador for 8 years. She knew when to speak and when to listen. Vorn leaned forward. The Cravathi are the most dangerous military power in known space. They have conquered dozens of systems. They show no mercy to those who resist them. Most species pay tribute to avoid their attention. Humans don't pay tribute, Helen said quietly. No, you don't. Zara pulled up a holographic display. Images floated in the air between them. In 30 years, humans have established 70 colonies. You have fought 4 wars and won all of them. You refused to join the Council's collective defense agreements. You maintain the 2nd largest military fleet in the galaxy. We believe in being prepared, Helen replied. Prepared, Vorn repeated. Ambassador, do you know why most species in this galaxy have small militaries? Why we prefer diplomacy to war? Helen shook her head. Because we evolved differently, Vorn explained. Most of us come from worlds that were kind to us. We did not need to become hunters to survive. We learned to cooperate, to share, to build societies based on mutual benefit. Another council member spoke up. This was Kel. a being made mostly of energy contained in a crystalline form. Kel served as the Council's chief xenobiologist. Humans and Cravathi are different. You both evolved on what you call death worlds. High gravity, dangerous predators, harsh climates. You both became apex predators on your planets. What's your point? Helen asked, though she was beginning to understand. Kel's crystal form pulsed with light as he spoke. Both species are persistence hunters. You chase prey until it collapses from exhaustion. Both species form strong pack bonds. Both use complex strategies and deception naturally. Both have high pain tolerance. Both refuse to surrender even in hopeless situations. Zara added more images to the display. Battle reports, tactical analyses, population growth charts. Separately, you are both dangerous. Humans defeated the Zelnar raiders, who had been raiding shipping lanes for 20 years. The Cravathi have never lost a war in their recorded history. But if you work together, if you combine your strengths, there would be no force in the galaxy that could stop you. Helen felt a chill run down her spine. You think we're going to ally with the Cravathi because of one encounter? That's ridiculous, is it? Vorn asked. Your security chief defeated their warrior using tactics they respected. War leader Thraxon called humans true warriors. He suggested you might meet again under better circumstances. Those are not the words of an enemy, Ambassador. So what do you want? Helen asked, her patience wearing thin. Do you want us to avoid the Cravathi? To run away if we see them? We want you to understand the position this puts the Council in, Vorn said carefully. Many species are afraid. They hear about humans and Cravathi meeting peacefully and they imagine scenarios, trade agreements, military pacts, shared technology. We're not planning any of that, Helen insisted. Plans can change, Zara said. Circumstances can shift. What if the Cravathi approach you with an offer? What if a mutual enemy appears? Would you refuse their help? Would they refuse yours? Helen had no answer to that. The meeting continued for another hour. The Council members asked questions about human military doctrine, expansion plans, and diplomatic intentions. Helen answered as best as she could, but she could feel their fear. It hung in the air like smoke. Finally, Vorn dismissed her. Thank you for your time, Ambassador. Please inform your government that the Council is watching this situation closely, very closely. Helen left the chamber, her mind racing. She needed to contact Earth immediately. The message reached President Calvin Ross 12 hours later. Helen explained everything in her report. She included her own analysis. The Council was afraid. Fear made people do stupid things. They might try to force a separation between humans and Cravathi. They might even consider more aggressive actions. Ross read the report in his office. With him was Fleet Admiral Betty Moore, a tough woman with short gray hair and a no-nonsense attitude. She had commanded ships in 3 wars. They're overreacting, Moore said after reading the report. We met one Cravathi ship. Had one fight. That doesn't make us allies. Maybe not, Ross agreed. But Helen's right about one thing. Fear is dangerous. If the Council thinks we're a threat, they might become one themselves. Let them try, Moore said with confidence. Our fleet can handle anything they throw at us. Ross shook his head. We don't want a war with the Council, Betty. That helps nobody. But we can't look weak either. If we back down every time someone gets nervous about human expansion, we'll never be taken seriously. So what do? Ross thought for a long moment. We continue as planned. We explore, we expand. We defend our interests. But we also keep channels open with the Council. Show them we're not a threat unless threatened. And if we encounter the Cravathi again, we treat them as we would any other species. With respect but caution. If they want to talk, we talk. If they want to fight, we fight. Simple as that, but it wasn't simple. Both of them knew it. Meanwhile, on the Cravathi homeworld of Kravos, war leader Thraxon stood before Supreme Warlord Drexen. The throne room was lit by torches, casting shadows on walls decorated with weapons from 1,000 conquered worlds. Drexen was ancient by Cravathi standards, nearly 200 years old. Scars covered his body, each one a story of battle. His eyes, though old, were still sharp. You let them go, Drexen said. It wasn't a question. I gave my word, Thraxen replied. Their warrior defeated Vorg in honest combat. Vorg is weak. He should have won easily. Vorg underestimated his opponent. The human fought with intelligence. He used Vorg's strength against him. He showed no hesitation when victory was within reach. Drexen leaned forward on his throne, And what did you learn from this encounter? That the rumors are true, Thraxon said. Humans are warriors, not like the soft species that fill this galaxy. They are predators like us. They understand strength. They respect it. The Council will not like this, Drexen observed. No, they won't. Thraxon allowed himself a small smile. They fear us already. They fear humans. If they believe we might work together, their fear will grow. Is that wise? Drexen asked. To make the galaxy afraid? Fear brings respect, Thraxon said. And perhaps opportunity. We have been fighting the same old enemies for decades. The Krill, the Thorians. Small wars against small species. But humans? They are something different. Something interesting. Drexen stood, his massive frame still imposing despite his age. He walked to a window that looked out over the capital city. You want to approach them? Not as subjects, but as equals. It would be unprecedented, Thraxon admitted. But so are they. The old warlord was quiet for a long time. Finally he spoke. Watch them. Learn about them. If the opportunity arises, we will see if these humans are truly worthy of our attention. Thraxon bowed and left. As he walked through the palace halls, he thought about the human security chief. Danny Fisher, the way he moved, the way he fought. There was a purity to it and honesty. No wasted motion. No unnecessary risk. Just efficient violence. The galaxy was changing. Thraxon could feel it. Old rules were being challenged. New powers were rising, and somewhere in that change was opportunity. He just hoped both species were ready for what came next. The warning came at dawn on New Boston. Governor Lisa Martin was drinking her morning coffee when the alarm started screaming. She ran to the communications center, still in her nightclothes, her heart pounding. Talk to me, she ordered, bursting through the doors. Gary Webb, the colony's defense coordinator, looked up from his screen. His face was pale. Ships, dozens of them. They just appeared at the edge of the system. They're not broadcasting any signals. They're just coming straight at us. Lisa looked at the tactical display. The enemy ships were strange, organic-looking, like giant insects. They moved in perfect formation, never breaking pattern. What are they? Unknown, Gary replied. Computer has no match in any database. But Governor, they're launching smaller craft. Hundreds of them. They'll be here in less than an hour. Lisa grabbed the comm. This is Governor Martin. All citizens to defensive positions. This is not a drill. Security teams, arm the civilians. Everyone who can hold a weapon, get to the walls. Move. New Boston was a farming colony. 3,000 people. They grew food for 6 other colonies. They had basic defenses because every colony did, but nothing like what they needed now. Greg Turner was working in his wheat field when the alarm reached him. He was a farmer, had been for 20 years since leaving Earth. But before that, he had been a soldier. Those instincts never really left. He ran back to his house. His rifle was in a cabinet, cleaned and maintained even though he hadn't fired it in years. His hands remembered what to do. Check the charge. Check the scope. Grab extra ammunition. His wife, Sarah, came down the stairs. Greg, what's happening? Don't know yet. But it's bad. Get to the shelter. Take the kids. Don't come out until I come get you. She wanted to argue. He could see it in her eyes. But she trusted him. She nodded and ran to wake their children. Greg reached the colony walls 30 minutes later. Other colonists were already there. Amy Brooks, the school teacher. Frank Cooper, who ran the general store. Old Henry Mills, who had to be 70, but still carried his hunting rifle. They were scared, but they were there. The first wave hit like a storm. The enemy craft landed outside the walls and creatures poured out. They looked like insects, 6-legged with hard shells and sharp claws. They made no sounds except for clicking noises. They moved fast. The colonists opened fire. The weapons worked. The creatures died. But for everyone that fell, 2 more took its place. They climbed over the bodies of their dead without hesitation. They don't care about casualties, Greg shouted. They're just trying to overwhelm us. Conserve your ammunition. Pick your shots. The battle lasted 6 hours. The creatures kept coming. The colonists fell back section by section. Lisa coordinated from the command center, moving people where they were needed most. But they were running out of ammunition, running out of time. Then Gary shouted from his station, Governor! Ship entering orbit. It's broadcasting human signals. It's one of ours. The Defiance dropped out of faster-than-light travel above New Boston. Captain Jake Rivers stood on the bridge taking in the situation. The colony was under siege. The enemy had superior numbers. His ship could help, but not enough. Not alone. Launch all fighters, he ordered. Target the landing craft. Keep them from bringing in reinforcements. Sir, long-range sensors are picking up another contact, his tactical officer reported. It's Cravathi. Battle Group 3 ships. They're heading toward another colony world. Looks like these things are attacking them too. Jake made a decision in seconds. Open a channel to the Cravathi battle group. Direct communication, sir. The officer looked confused. Do it. The screen flickered. A Cravathi face appeared. War Chief Kolvar. He looked angry, which Jake guessed was his normal expression. What do you want, human? Kolvar growled. We're both under attack by the same enemy, Jake said quickly. My colony is about to fall. Yours probably is too. We're stronger together. Temporary alliance. Just until we deal with this threat. Kolvar was quiet for a moment. Jake could almost see the calculations happening behind those yellow eyes. Pride versus survival. Honor versus practicality coordinates, Kolvar finally said. Send me your location. My warriors will join your battle. But human, if you betray us, I will hunt you across the galaxy. Understood, Jake replied. See you soon. The Cravathi ships arrived 20 minutes later. They were brutal in their efficiency. Their weapons tore through the enemy craft. Their warriors landed on the surface. Massive armored figures that crashed into the enemy lines like living tanks. Greg watched in amazement as a Cravathi warrior landed near his position. The creature stood nearly 8 feet tall, covered in red scales and battle armor. It carried a weapon that fired bolts of superheated plasma. Every shot killed an enemy. Human, the warrior growled, not looking at Greg. How many more are there? Too many, Greg answered honestly. They keep coming. Then we keep killing. The Cravathi charged forward, roaring a battle cry that made Greg's blood run cold. The combined defense changed everything. Human weapons provided precision fire. Cravathi warriors excelled at close combat. The enemy began to break. Not retreat, just cease advancing. Without their momentum, they became targets. By sunset, the battle was over. The enemy pulled back to their ships and left the system. The colonists were exhausted. 43 people had died. Hundreds more were wounded. But they had survived. Jake met Kolvar in the governor's office. Both leaders were covered in dust and blood, though none of it was theirs. You fight well for prey species, Kolvar said. It might have been an insult from anyone else. But Jake heard the respect in his voice. So do you for oversized lizards, Jake replied. Kolvar showed his teeth. It might have been a smile. What were those creatures? We're calling them the Hive, Jake said. Because they act like insects. No communication. No negotiation. Just attack and consume. Our science teams are analyzing the bodies. We'll share the data with you. We will do the same, Kolvar agreed. This enemy is unlike any we have faced. They care nothing for their own lives. They are only interested in destruction. We need to prepare for another attack, Lisa said. She looked tired, her voice hoarse from shouting orders all day. They'll be back. And next time they'll bring more? Agreed, Kolvar said. We should coordinate defenses. Share tactical information, Jake nodded. I'll send the proposal up my chain of command. You do the same. Maybe our governments can work something out. Maybe. Kolvar stood to leave. He paused at the door and looked back at Jake. You made a good decision today, human. A practical decision. This is why you will survive in this galaxy. After the Cravathi left, Lisa collapsed into her chair. Did we just form an alliance with the Cravathi? Temporary one, Jake said. Just for this crisis. Do you think it'll stay temporary? Jake looked out the window at the colony. People were rebuilding already. Human and Cravathi warriors worked side by side to repair the walls. It should have looked strange. Instead, it looked right. I don't know, he admitted. But I know one thing. Today proved we're stronger together than apart. Someone needs to tell the council that. News of the joint defense reached Centris Prime within hours. The council's emergency session was called immediately. Chancellor Vorn looked at the reports with growing dread. This is exactly what we feared, he said. They have begun working together. Should we intervene? Asked Council Member Prax, a cautious being who always worried about everything. Zara shook her head. Intervene how? They saved each other's colonies. They fought a common enemy. If we condemn that, we look unreasonable. But if we do nothing, Vorn said, This temporary alliance could become permanent. And then what? Two predator species with combined military power? They could dominate the galaxy. Or protect it, Kel suggested quietly. This hive is a threat to all of us. Maybe we need predators to fight predators. The council argued for hours. No consensus was reached, but a decision had to be made. Finally, Vorn called for a vote. We will implement the separation decree, he announced. Humans and Cravathi will be forbidden from entering the same systems. Trade between them will be banned. Any cooperation will be considered a hostile act against the council. Not everyone agreed, but the vote passed. The decree would be announced the next day. When Jake heard about it, he was furious. When Kolvar heard about it, he laughed. They fear us, Kolvar told his warriors. Good. Fear is the beginning of respect. But both sides knew the truth. The decree wouldn't work. The hive was still out there. And when the next attack came, politics wouldn't matter. Only survival would. The galaxy was changing. Old rules were breaking. And in that chaos, humans and Cravathi were finding they had more in common than anyone expected. The question was whether the rest of the galaxy could accept that before it was too late. The separation decree came into effect at midnight, Galactic Standard Time. Ambassador Helen Price watched from her office on Centris Prime as the official announcement was broadcast across all council networks. Chancellor Vorn's face appeared on every screen in the galaxy. Effective immediately, humans and Cravathi are forbidden from entering the same star systems, Vorn declared. Trade agreements between these species are null and void. Any military cooperation will be considered an act of aggression against the Galactic Council. Peacekeeping fleets will enforce these restrictions. Helen turned off the screen. She had argued against this for 3 days straight. The council wouldn't listen. Fear had won over reason. Her personal communicator buzzed. It was Ambassador Henry Cole, Earth's senior representative. His face appeared on the small screen. He looked angry. I'm walking out, Henry said without preamble. I'm taking our delegation and leaving Centris Prime. I'm done with these cowards. Henry, wait, Helen started. But he had already cut the connection. She sat down heavily in her chair. This was bad. Really bad. Earth and the Cravathi Empire had just been branded as threats. The council was drawing battle lines, and neither side was backing down. On Earth, President Ross held an emergency meeting with his cabinet. Fleet Admiral Moore presented the military situation. The council has positioned 30 peacekeeping fleets along buffer zones, Moore explained, showing a tactical map. They're not attacking yet, but they're making their presence known. Any human ship that crosses into restricted space will be intercepted. This is insane, said Secretary of Defense Paul Carter. We saved council colonies from the hive. Now they're treating us like enemies. What about the Cravathi? Ross asked. What's their response? According to our intelligence, Supreme Warlord Drexen is mobilizing his fleet, Moore replied. He's moving assets to the border zones. It's a show of force. He's daring the council to start something. Ross rubbed his temples. A headache was building behind his eyes. We need to de-escalate this. Open a secure channel to Kravos. I want to speak with Drexen directly. The call took 6 hours to arrange. When it finally connected, Drexen's massive form filled the screen. Even through the communicator, his presence was intimidating. President Ross, Drexen said. His voice was like grinding stone. You wanted to talk. This decree is madness, Ross said bluntly. The council is creating enemies where none existed. We need to show them they're wrong. Show them? Drexen laughed, a harsh sound. They have already decided we are threats. Nothing we say will change their minds. Only actions matter now. Then let's take the right actions, Ross insisted. We both pull back from the buffer zones. Show restraint. Don't give them a reason to attack. You think like prey, Drexen said, but there was no insult in his tone. Just observation. The council fears us because we are strong. If we show weakness, they will not be grateful. They will press harder. And if we show aggression, they'll feel justified in attacking us, Ross countered. Is that what you want? A war across the entire galaxy? Drexen was quiet for a long moment. What I want is irrelevant. The universe is what it is. The strong survive. The weak serve or die. The council has forgotten this truth. Perhaps it is time they remembered. There has to be another way, Ross said. Perhaps there is, Drexen admitted, but we have not found it yet. If you do, human president, let me know. The connection ended. Ross looked at his advisors. Opinions? He's right about one thing, Moore said reluctantly. The Council is acting out of fear. Fear makes people irrational. If we appear weak, they might see it as an opportunity rather than an olive branch. But if we appear aggressive, we confirm their worst fears, Carter added. We're stuck. Ross stood and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting over the Capitol. Somewhere up in those stars, the galaxy was choosing sides, and he had no idea how to stop it. Meanwhile, in deep space, the Hive was not idle. They had been watching, learning. The attack on New Boston and the Cravathi colony had been a test. Now they understood. These two species were dangerous, but the others were not. A massive Hive fleet emerged from the darkness between stars. 300 ships, each one carrying thousands of drones. Their target was not human or Cravathi. Their target was the Council's heart. They were going after Centris Prime itself. The attack began without warning. Council defense fleets scrambled to respond, but they were unprepared. Most Council species had small militaries. They relied on numbers and technology, not warrior instinct. They had forgotten how to fight a real war. General Torin, a Vrax warrior who commanded the Council's defense forces, did his best. His ships formed defensive lines. His fighters engaged the enemy. But it wasn't enough. The Hive kept coming, wave after wave, uncaring about losses. Within hours, the outer defense grid fell. Hive ships pushed into the inner system. Centris Prime began evacuating civilians. Millions of beings fled in whatever ships they could find. Helen was in her office when the first explosions rocked the city. She grabbed her emergency bag and ran for the evacuation shuttles. The halls were chaos. Council officials and staff pushed and shoved, all trying to escape at once. She made it to the landing pad just as a Hive ship crashed into a nearby building. The explosion threw her to the ground. Her ears rang. Her vision blurred. Someone grabbed her arm and pulled her up. It was Chancellor Vorn. His blue face was covered in dust. One of his 4 arms hung limp, broken. "We need to go," he gasped. "The city is falling." They ran together to the last shuttle. It was overcrowded, packed with refugees, but the pilot didn't care. He took off immediately, racing for orbit. Helen looked out the window as they climbed. Below, the beautiful crystal city of Centris Prime was burning. Hive drones swarmed through the streets. Ships exploded in the sky. Decades of peace and prosperity were being destroyed in minutes. "We need help," Vorn said quietly, sitting next to her. Blood dripped from his injured arm. "We need warriors." Real warriors, Helen looked at him. The proud chancellor who had declared humans and Cravathi too dangerous. Now he was broken, his city burning, his people dying. "You need us," Helen said. "You need the species you just declared enemies." Vorn closed his eyes. "Yes, God help us, yes." The distress call went out on all frequencies. The Galactic Council requested immediate military assistance from any species capable of providing it, including humans, including Cravathi. Commander Sophie Blake received the call while patrolling the border zone in her carrier group. She commanded the carrier Intrepid and 3 escort destroyers. Her orders were clear: stay on this side of the buffer. Do not cross into Council space. But the distress call showed Council refugee ships under attack. Families, children, civilians who had nothing to do with politics. Sophie made her decision in seconds. "All ships, follow my lead. We're crossing the buffer." "Commander, that violates our orders," her executive officer protested. "Then court-martial me later," Sophie replied. "Plot a course to those refugee ships. Maximum speed. Launch all fighters when we're in range." The Intrepid jumped into Council space. At almost the same moment, a Cravathi war fleet did the same from the opposite direction. Battle Commander Vrex had received the same distress call and made the same decision. The 2 fleets arrived at the refugee convoy simultaneously. The Hive was already there, attacking the defenseless transports. Without discussion, without coordination, human and Cravathi forces attacked. Sophie's fighters disabled Hive command ships with precision strikes. Vrex's warriors boarded the enemy vessels, fighting through corridors with savage efficiency. The Hive drones were numerous, but they faced predators now. Real predators. The battle lasted 40 minutes. When it was over, the refugee fleet was saved. 60,000 Council civilians were alive because 2 enemy species had ignored orders to help them. Sophie's communication officer patched through a signal from the refugee flagship. A small figure appeared on screen. It was a child, maybe 7 years old, from a species Sophie didn't recognize. The child's large eyes were filled with tears. "Thank you," the child said in broken common. "Thank you for saving us." Sophie felt something break inside her. These were the people the council claimed to protect. These were the people caught in the middle of politics and fear. "You're welcome," Sophie said gently. "You're safe now." Vrex's face appeared on another screen. The Cravathi commander looked at Sophie, then at the refugee ships, then back at Sophie. "This is foolish," Vrex said. "We will both face punishment for disobeying orders." "Probably," Sophie agreed. "Was it worth it?" Vrex looked at the refugee ships again. In those ships were families, elders, children, innocent beings who just wanted to live. "Yes," Vrex said finally. "It was worth it." News of the rescue spread across the galaxy faster than light. Video footage showed human and Cravathi ships fighting side by side to protect Council civilians. The images were everywhere. Social media networks, news broadcasts, government briefings, public opinion shifted like a landslide. Citizens across the galaxy saw the truth. Humans and Cravathi were not the threat. They were the protectors. While politicians argued and made decrees, these warriors had saved lives. Chancellor Vorn watched the footage from a medical ship. His arm was being treated, but his mind was on other things. He had been wrong. Terribly, catastrophically wrong. The separation. The negotiation happened aboard Haven Station, a neutral trading post on the edge of Council space. The station was old, built by some forgotten species centuries ago. It was perfect for this meeting because it belonged to no one. No political advantage for any side. President Ross arrived first with Ambassador Helen Price. Fleet Admiral Betty Moore came with them, in full dress uniform. They wanted the Council to see Earth's military leadership standing together. Supreme Warlord Drexen came next. He brought War Leader Thraxon and Battle Commander Vrex. The Cravathi warriors wore their finest armor, decorated with honors from 1,000 battles. Chancellor Vorn was last to arrive. He looked older now. The attack on Centrus Prime had aged him. He brought only 2 advisors. The rest of the council was too afraid to attend or too proud to admit they needed help. The 3 groups met in a large conference room. The air was tense. Weapons had been left outside, but everyone knew that didn't mean much. If things went wrong, this room would become a battleground in seconds. Vorn spoke first. "Thank you for coming. I know we have had our differences. But the Hive threatens all of us. They attack without warning. They take no prisoners. They want only to consume and destroy. If we do not unite against them, we will all fall separately." "Agreed," Ross said. "But let's be clear about something. You didn't just have differences with us. You declared us enemies. You forbade cooperation. You positioned military fleets to keep us apart. Now you want our help?" "I was wrong," Vorn admitted. The words seemed to physically pain him. The Council was wrong. We let fear guide us instead of wisdom. We saw threats where we should have seen allies. "Words are easy," Drexen growled. "What are you offering besides apologies?" Vorn took a deep breath. "Full alliance. Humans and Cravathi will be granted senior membership in the Galactic Council. Your species will have equal voting rights with all other members. The separation decree will be dissolved immediately. Any trade restrictions will be lifted. And we propose a unified military command to fight the Hive." Moore raised an eyebrow. "You want our fleets under Council command?" "No," Vorn said quickly. "I want a joint command. Human, Cravathi, and Council forces working together, sharing intelligence, coordinating strategy. But each fleet maintains its own command structure." Ross looked at Drexen. The old warlord's face was unreadable. Then slowly Drexen nodded. "This is acceptable," Drexen said. "But I have one condition. When this war is over, the alliance remains. No more decrees separating species. No more treating warriors like threats. We fight together now. We stay together after." "The Council will not interfere with your mutual cooperation," Vorn agreed. "You have my word." "Then we have an agreement," Ross said. He stood and extended his hand to Vorn. After a moment's hesitation, Vorn took it. The handshake was captured by cameras and broadcast across the galaxy. Then Ross turned to Drexen. The Cravathi warlord looked at the offered hand. In his culture, such gestures were rare. They signified trust, partnership, equality. Drexen gripped Ross's hand. His claws were carefully retracted, showing he meant no harm. "We hunt together," Drexen said. "We hunt together," Ross repeated. The symbolic moment was important. But everyone in that room knew the real work was just beginning. They needed a plan, a strategy. a way to stop the hive before more worlds burned. Fleet Admiral Moore took control of the tactical discussion. Maps appeared on holographic displays showing hive movements and attack patterns. They're systematic, Moore explained. They hit outlying colonies first, gathering resources. Then they move toward major population centers. Based on their current trajectory, their next target will be either the human colony at New Terra or the Cravathi stronghold at Draken Prime. Or both, Thraxon added. They seem capable of coordinating multiple assaults. Then we need to hit them first, Vrex said. Find their base, their nest, their source. Destroy it and scatter them. Easier said than done, Helen pointed out. We don't know where they come from. They appear from nowhere, attack, and vanish back into deep space. Then we track them, Drexen said. When they retreat, we follow. All the way back to their home if necessary. Ross nodded. That's the plan then. We set up a network of sensor stations. Next time the hive attacks, we follow them home. And we bring everything we have. The meeting continued for 6 more hours. Details were hammered out. Command structures established. Resources allocated. By the end, Task Force Predator was born, a combined fleet of human and Cravathi warships, supported by Council logistics and intelligence. Admiral Moore would command the human contingent from the dreadnought Valkyrie. War Marshal Drexar, Drexen's most trusted general, would lead Cravathi forces from the fortress ship Bloodfang. The fleet would number over 300 vessels, the largest military force ever assembled in the galaxy. 2 weeks later, the hive attacked again. This time they hit a mining colony at Red Rock Station. The colony's defenders fought hard, but they were doomed from the start. Captain Jake Rivers was there with the Defiance. He had been reassigned to Task Force Predator and given new orders. Don't just fight. Track them. As the battle raged, Jake's science officer worked on tracing the hive's jump signatures. It was difficult. The hive used some kind of organic faster-than-light travel that left unusual traces, but human sensors were good. Really good, got it, the science officer shouted over the sounds of combat. I have their trajectory. They're heading toward the void sector. Transmit coordinates to the fleet, Jake ordered. Then follow them. Stay out of weapons range, but don't lose them. The Defiance and 24 other ships pursued the retreating hive fleet. They jumped from system to system, going deeper into unexplored space. The area was dark, filled with dead stars and cosmic dust. Navigation was tricky. Sensors were unreliable, but they kept going. Because at the end of this trail was the answer. The source of the hive. 3 days later, they found it. A massive organic structure orbiting a brown dwarf star. It was part ship, part living creature. Thousands of smaller vessels moved around it like cells in a body. At the center was something huge, something that pulsed with energy. That's it, Jake breathed. That's their queen. Their nexus. Everything connects back to that. The data was transmitted to Task Force Predator. Within hours, the entire fleet was assembling at the edge of the void sector. Moore and Drexar reviewed the intelligence. We go in hard and fast, Drexar said. Overwhelm their defenses before they can organize. Agreed, Moore said. But this is their home. They'll fight to protect it. We need to expect heavy resistance. Then we bring heavy forces, Drexar replied with a savage grin. The plan was simple but brutal. The fleet would jump directly into the hive's home system. Human ships would provide long-range fire support and electronic warfare. Cravathi vessels would close to combat range and tear through enemy lines. Ground forces would assault the Nexus directly, fighting their way to the Queen. Colonel Ryan Foster commanded the human marine contingent. 2,000 soldiers, the best Earth had. They trained for urban combat, shipboarding, zero-gravity warfare. They were ready for anything. War leader Korvax commanded the Cravathi shock troops. 5,000 warriors, each one a veteran of dozens of battles. They trained from childhood to kill. They knew no fear. The two commanders met before the assault. They stood in the hangar bay of the Valkyrie, surrounded by their troops. Marines in powered armor, Cravathi warriors in their ceremonial battle gear. Your people fight well, Korvax said. I have seen the reports. So do yours, Ryan replied. This is going to be hell down there. You know that, right? Hell is where warriors are forged, Korvax said. We will fight together. We will win together, or we will die together. Either way, it will be glorious, Ryan couldn't help but smile. The Cravathi had a way of making everything sound epic. Stick together down there. Watch each other's backs. We're stronger as a team. Agreed. Korvax extended his clawed hand. Ryan gripped it firmly. The watching troops, human and Cravathi alike, roared their approval. The assault began at dawn, Galactic Standard Time. 300 ships jumped into the void sector. The Hive responded immediately. Thousands of defense craft launched from the Nexus. The space around the brown dwarf became a storm of fire and destruction. Human cruisers fired missiles from long range, saturating Hive defenses. Cravathi battleships closed in, their heavy guns tearing through enemy hulls. Fighters from both sides engaged in brutal dogfights among the wreckage. Admiral Moore watched from the Valkyrie's bridge. All ships concentrate fire on the Nexus structure. Punch through their lines. Clear a path for the landing craft. Human Admiral, this is War Marshal Drexar, came the response. My ships will create the opening. Your forces follow and exploit it. We show these creatures what happens when predators work together. The Bloodfang led a wedge of Cravathi ships straight into the thickest Hive defenses. It was insane, suicidal, and it worked. The Cravathi absorbed massive damage but never stopped advancing. They broke through the enemy lines like a hammer through glass. Human ships poured through the gap, their weapons cutting down any Hive vessels that tried to close it. The path to the Nexus was open. Landing craft launched by the hundreds. They carried Ryan's Marines and Korvax's warriors to the surface of the massive organic structure. Point defense fire destroyed many. The Queen Mother's chamber was at the heart of the Nexus. Ryan and Korvax found it after 3 hours of brutal fighting through organic corridors filled with Hive drones. The chamber was massive, at least 100 meters across, with walls that pulsed like living tissue. At the center sat the Queen Mother. She was enormous, easily 20 meters tall. Her body a grotesque mass of chitin and flesh. Tubes connected her to the walls, feeding her, linking her to the entire Hive network. Thousands of eggs surrounded her base, each one ready to hatch more drones. That's her, Ryan said, checking his weapons charge. His armor was damaged, covered in burns and cracks. Beside him, Korvax bled from a dozen wounds, but the Cravathi warrior stood tall, his plasma blade still glowing. We end this now, Korvax growled. For all the world she destroyed, for all the lives she took. They weren't alone. Sergeant Linda Grant led what remained of her squad, 12 Marines who had fought through hell to reach this point. Beside them stood Thrak, a Cravathi champion whose armor was decorated with the marks of countless kills. The Queen Mother saw them. Her massive head turned, revealing compound eyes that reflected their images 1,000 times. Then she screamed. It wasn't a sound so much as a psychic wave that made everyone's head hurt. Drones poured into the chamber from hidden passages. Hundreds of them, all rushing to protect their queen. The final battle had begun. Ryan's Marines formed a firing line. Disciplined shots, conserving ammunition, making every bullet count. The Cravathi warriors charged forward, meeting the drones head-on in brutal melee combat. Grant, plant charges on those support tubes, Ryan ordered, firing at drones that got too close. Cut her off from the structure. Linda ran forward with her squad, dodging past fighting warriors and drones. They reached the first tube and attached a fusion charge. Then the second, the third. The Queen Mother thrashed, trying to stop them, but Thrak intercepted her massive claws with his blade. The Cravathi champion roared a battle cry as he carved through chitin armor. The Queen Mother screamed again, this time in pain. Her movements became frantic, desperate. Charges set, Linda reported, running back to the main group. 30 seconds to detonation. Everyone fall back to the entrance, Ryan ordered. Move, move! The troops retreated in good order, covering each other as they moved. The drones tried to follow, but Korvax and his warriors held the passage, forming a wall of armor and fury. The charges detonated. The support tubes exploded in showers of organic matter. The Queen Mother's scream turned into a shriek of agony as she was cut off from her network. Without the constant flow of nutrients and information, she began to die. But she wasn't dead yet. The Queen Mother lurched forward, her massive body dragging across the chamber floor. She was coming for them, driven by rage and pain. Hit her with everything we have, Ryan shouted. Plasma bolts, bullets, and energy beams converged on the Queen Mother. Her armor cracked and split. Green ichor poured from her wounds. But still she came. Korvax stepped forward. I will finish this. He raised his plasma blade high and charged straight at the dying queen. Ryan and Thrak followed him. The three warriors reached the Queen Mother together. Korvax's blade struck first, driving deep into her underbelly. Thrak followed, his claws tearing at her exposed flesh. Ryan climbed onto her back, planting his last fusion charge directly on what passed for her skull. "Everyone clear!" Ryan jumped off, running as fast as his damaged armor would allow. The final charge detonated. The Queen Mother's head exploded in a spray of gore and bone. Her massive body convulsed once, twice, then went still. The psychic presence that had connected the entire Hive network went silent. In orbit, Admiral Moore watched her tactical display as Hive ships suddenly stopped moving. They drifted in space, no longer coordinated, no longer threatening. Across the galaxy, every Hive drone simultaneously shut down. Without the Queen Mother's consciousness directing them, they were just empty shells. "Ceasefire," Moore ordered. "All ships stand down. It's over." The communication channels erupted with cheers. Human Cravathi, even some council ships that had joined the battle. Victory. Complete and total victory. Down in the Nexus chamber, Ryan sat against a wall, exhausted. Korvac stood nearby, breathing heavily, his armor scorched and dented, but his spirit unbroken. "We did it," Linda said, collapsing next to Ryan. "We actually did it." "We did," Ryan agreed. He looked at Korvac. "Your warriors fought well. Couldn't have done it without them." "Your soldiers were brave," Korvac replied. "They stood when others would have run. This is why we make good allies, human. We both understand that victory requires sacrifice." Throck came over, limping slightly. "The human is right. Today we proved what predators can accomplish when they hunt together. The galaxy will remember this." The extraction ships arrived an hour later. The survivors were pulled out of the collapsing Nexus structure. They had gone in with 7,000 troops. They came out with less than 4,000. The price of victory had been steep, but they had won. The Hive was broken. The Queen was dead. The invasion was over. The fleet returned to Haven Station 3 days later. They were greeted as heroes. Ships from dozens of species lined up to escort them in. The station itself was decorated with lights and banners from 100 different worlds. Commander Jack Morrison was there, having been recalled from patrol duty. He watched from the observation deck as the Valkyrie and Bloodfang docked side by side. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. The two deadliest species in the galaxy standing together. Lucy Hayes stood next to him. "Think things will change now?" she asked. "They already have," Jack replied. "Look at them." He gestured to the crowd gathering in the station's main plaza. Humans, Cravathi, council species all mixing together, celebrating together. A month ago, this would have been impossible. The official ceremony took place in the station's largest conference hall. President Ross, Supreme Warlord Drexen, and Chancellor Vorn stood on stage together. Behind them stood the military commanders. Moore, Drexar, Korvac, and Ryan Foster, who had been promoted to general for his actions in the final battle. Vorn spoke first. "Today we honor those who gave their lives to protect us all. Human, Cravathi, and council species fought together against a terrible enemy. Many did not return. We will remember their sacrifice." A moment of silence filled the hall. Then Drexen stepped forward. "In my culture we have a saying," the old warlord began. "The pack that hunts together survives together. Today humans and Cravathi are packmates. We have shed blood together. We have lost warriors together. This bond cannot be broken." Ross nodded in agreement. "The Predator Pact, as it's being called, will continue, not just as a military alliance, but as a partnership. Humans and Cravathi will share technology, trade goods, and protect each other's interests. We are stronger together than we ever could be apart." "The Galactic Council accepts this," Vorn added. "Both species are granted full senior membership. Your voices will be heard in all council decisions. Your borders will be respected. Your traditions will be honored." The hall erupted in applause. It was genuine, not forced. The galaxy had seen what these two species could do. Fear had been replaced by respect. Suspicion had been replaced by gratitude. After the ceremony, Jack found himself at a bar in the station's entertainment district. It was a strange place, built to accommodate multiple species. The chairs were adjustable. The atmosphere could be customized for different breathing requirements. The drinks came in a dozen different chemical compositions. War Leader Thraxon sat at the bar, looking somewhat uncomfortable on a chair that wasn't designed for his large frame. He was drinking something that glowed faintly blue. "Mind if I join you?" Jack asked. Thraxon looked at him, then gestured to the empty seat. "Commander Morrison, the human who started all of this. Please sit." Jack ordered a whiskey and sat down. "Started it?" I was just trying to avoid getting my ship destroyed. And in doing so, you changed the galaxy, Thraxon said. When your warrior defeated Vorg, I saw something. I saw that humans were like us. Practical, strong, willing to do what was necessary to survive. We're not so different, Jack agreed. Both our species evolved fighting. We understand violence because we had to. Most species in the galaxy didn't, which made them weak, Thraxon said. Not in body, perhaps, but in spirit. They had forgotten how to fight, how to sacrifice, how to protect what matters. Do you think it'll last? Jack asked. The Alliance, I mean. Thraxon took a long drink before answering. It will last because it must. The Hive was not the only threat in this galaxy. There are others. Pirates, warlords, aggressive species looking for weakness. The Council species cannot face them alone. They need warriors. They need us. And we need them, Jack pointed out. Their technology, their resources, their diplomatic networks. It's a partnership. Yes, Thraxon agreed. A partnership born of necessity. But perhaps that is the best kind. Partnerships born of convenience fade when convenience ends. But partnerships born of shared struggle? Those last forever. They drank in comfortable silence for a while. Around them, the bar was filled with a mix of species. A group of humans played cards with some Kravathi warriors. Council officials chatted with human diplomats. It looked normal now. Natural. My people have a tradition, Thraxon said eventually. When warriors fight together,